So is it true? Are we gonna be having a new ancient event very soon? Well, right now nothing's confirmed, but it's definitely possible. And there's a few different speculations and such that people have been going through the last couple of days since this particular image was posted on the official DML Facebook page. As you can see that we've got Aya here, and she's inside a hot air balloon, and on the side they do say Aya is setting sail for adventure, but what do you think she sees on the horizon? And now, considering that usually between divine or after divine events we tend to have ancient events, and then we'll have divine, then ancient, and it just swaps it up like this, it would mean that we'd be due an ancient event sometime within, say, the next 2 months at the latest, with how the schedule goes at the moment. But the thing is, we do have the information about those primal dragons from the previous event, and at the same time, Aya is in the clouds, which is making a lot of people think that this is going to be some sort of wind ancient event. But at the same time, because Aya is inside the thunder clouds, it's also equally possible that this could be an energy ancient event. And maybe it's not truly an ancient event, maybe it's a primal dragon event after all. So there's not a whole lot for us to go off of. But I did think it was important for people that aren't really used to the event schedules and what these sorts of teasings mean, and sort of go through what I think after, you know, I've been seeing all the different teases and everything else for like 7 years now. Because, of course, we've just had the previous Divine Fest event, and we will be hatching a new Divine in a moment. But we still have the Love Collection to finish off, so until that happens, we're not going to get any official information, like, for major events, really. Because normally they like to completely wrap up the previous month-long event, and then things start getting teased shortly afterwards. But, you know, we've just had a Divine event, so we're almost certainly going to be having some sort of Ancient event next. But for the Ancients that we haven't yet had, I know that there's a lot of people that are waiting for Energy Ancients. Reason being that the element that that event is based off of will determine what the major reward dragon has as its third element. So for example, we had the Shadow Ancient event, which gave us Glom, who's the Ancient Divine and Shadow Dragon, which means that during the Energy Ancient event, that would be an Ancient Divine and Energy Dragon, which arguably is going to be a lot more useful than any of the other remaining elements that we could have. So I know a lot of people are holding out hope for an Ancient Energy event, and I would say at this point there's nothing definitive saying that it's definitely, say, a wind-based event or anything like that. But, you know, this is all that we've got to go off of. We'll probably get some more teaser images and other things like that probably within the next couple of weeks. We might even get some next week. But at this moment in time, just be aware that this is probably teasing for an ancient event, but it could be some random new event, or it could be Primal Dragon event. But Primal Dragons might just be ancients, but even stronger or different in some way, which is concerning and worrying in itself. But anyway, I just wanted to make sure that I went through that because it has been up a couple of days and people have been sending all sorts of stuff to me. But I think that we should get our hands down and dirty and hatching a new Divine for me on Windows. So this right here is the ISIS Dragon. Not to be, you know, confused with the terrorist organization, but the ISIS Dragon is a Divine Wind and Fire Dragon. And now, because ISIS does have that fire element, the ISIS Dragon can be quite a useful dragon for a lot of people that are trying to do things in the dungeon. Looks like I'm going to have to buy another vault slot. Why don't I just buy 2 while I'm here? Because I can never have enough vault slots, apparently. And I guess I will pop Hermit into there. Bye-bye, Hermit. You weren't out for very long. But having fire in the dungeon can genuinely be huge. And oh my goodness, look at that! Look at that hatching animation there. Did you see that? I think it replays if I do this. Well, I think a few different animations play. But look at him jump! Jumpies! And then he's not quite good enough with his wings yet and he falls to the floor. Poor baby. But yes, we are, like I said, with the dungeon stuff, especially during fire dungeon weeks, If you have a fire dragon, it means that you can get the 3-hit attack quest done and the weak attack quest done really easily. So a dragon like Isis is genuinely not too bad of an option for a team member. But anyway, the Isis dragon has incredible magical power and is said to protect the earth, the skies, and even fate itself. In its spare time, however, it enjoys cuddling with its mate, the Osiris dragon. Aw, is that like best friend Osiris, or is that like they're procreating? That's like the most YouTube advertiser friendly way I can say that. But the Isis dragon, you know, they've got a lot of decals, they've got that big sun on their forehead, they've got lots of different little bits of clothing and that, which I love dragons that have clothes and things like that, you know. It makes them a little bit more humanoid, at least a little bit, humanified, anthropomorphized, not quite. But we will take him up to level 20. Again, I did get the Isis dragon quite a few years ago on an Android account, I don't remember which one. But this is the first time I've actually been able to see this dragon in my Windows account. So at this point on Windows, we are actually gathering quite a lot of dragons now. We're getting to the point where it's probably going to become a lot harder for us to see new dragons anymore. Except if they bring back some of the old ancients. But, you know, when they bring back these divines, like the Isis dragon, that I might have got on a different account but never on Windows, and those pieces dragons like the Seth dragon or Hoyi, we got some more pieces for him. Eventually we'll be able to collect them. So our collection of divines and ancients will be going up steadily. But, you know, while I'm not willing to spend on like event altars and all the different microtransactions, we're still probably going to be somewhat limited in the dragons that we can actually get on this account. But, you know, from this latest event, we managed to get the major reward dragon. The event before that, we got the major reward dragon. The event before that, we got the major reward dragon. So we've been getting the major reward dragon every single event now for a decent while. And so, you know, for all the things I've complained about in DML in the past, I may have brought this up again recently, but all things considered, the Divine Fest and the altar system, especially with the Divine ones because the recent Ancient event was made more difficult, but like this Divine Fest that we just had, I think it's one of the fairest events that we've had in a long time. Now, the only downside to having the events in this way is that either you get a good dungeon team and you grind the dungeon a lot, or you're screwed. It does also mean that you have to save up a lot of your gems in time for the major event coming around, so otherwise you're not going to have a lot of gems to gem the dungeon. And at the same time, if you've got a really bad dungeon team, it's not worth it for you to gem the dungeon anyway until you're at least getting about 1,000 stepping stones per round. So there's a lot of ifs and buts, but considering that even free-to-play players can get to that point where they're making, say, 2,000 plus stepping stones a run, and they can get every single reward dragon from an event like that, I think this is a good spot for it to stay. Now, the Ancient event, like the Shadow Ancient event, did make it more difficult, like I said, because the dragons cost 1,500 talismans each. But I think maybe they could even break it in the middle, like make it 1,300 or 1,400 each per dragon, and that would be a bit fairer. But in its current state, I don't really want them to touch the Divine Fests much more. Like, I think they're fine. The other thing that we have is Enchantment Frenzy, which, you know, is great if you have lots and lots of tickets. So whenever we do get this, make sure that you open up some of the chests with your tickets, because otherwise it's really difficult to get resources now because of the arena. But, you know, for all the bad things that might be in this game, all of the things like the microtransactions and everything else, I would say Divine Fests, in their current state, are fine. Which may shock some of you. Some people like to pretend like all I ever do is complain about this game, but it's not true. I only actually complain about the things that I genuinely think that, like, it needs changing, like, now. But Divine Fest, I think, is one of the good parts of the game, which is good because, you know, that's the main event type that we have in the game right now. But when we do get primal dragons, assuming we get primal dragons, and that wasn't just like some random throw out sentence that they put into the previous event, I hope that they keep a similar sort of approach. Now, they could do whatever they want. They could make primal dragon events more pay to win, just like they did with the chrono dragons. If you remember when we had the regular divines, and then we got like chrono Hades, and we got chrono everything else, like this guy, and it suddenly was like I wasn't getting the reward dragons as much anymore. It's like the pay to win that we already had, they sort of doubled down on it, and it became even more of a pay to win fest. I really hope that they don't do that for Ancients. But if we do follow what happened back then with the Chrono Divines, that would mean that there's some potential for them to bring out Primals as those upgraded Ancient Dragons. Again, there's nothing confirmed as of right now, but they could have chosen to go with a similar sort of approach to what they did before. They could do something completely different. But I'm just saying that there is the possibility. So before anyone assumes this or that for definite, right now everything is purely speculation. But obviously it might help to say some of the likely things that could happen versus like things that would be pretty much impossible or things that seem really, really obtuse and just not likely to be added in the game. But, you know, we'll see. We'll see when the time comes. I just hope that, on average, I don't have to spend more than 1,000 gems per event. Because right now, myself with my team, I'm in a spot where I can basically get every single event major reward for roughly 1,000 gems per event. Maybe a little bit more. Last event, I got it for 600, which is obviously less than a single on-sale clam. But it depends on the event type, it depends on the dungeon rotations, and a few different things. So I hope that they keep it roughly around that for cost. If you have a really, well, my team's not fantastic, but it's a decent team. It's got the pieces it needs, right? So if you have a team similar to mine or better than mine, I hope that the costs stay roughly around sort of like that 600 to 1,000 gems cost range. That is if you're playing every week, doing every reset, getting every dragon apart from just the dungeon stuff. That's my hope. There's no guarantee that that's going to happen, but as a player that's coming up on their 7th year anniversary, that's all that I can really, I guess, give as feedback to the most recent events that we've had. All things considered, I think the previous Divine Fest was a nice event. I wouldn't say it was exciting. I wouldn't say it was the sort of event that would bring me back to the game if I wasn't playing. But it did give me Chrono Aphrodite. It did give me some dragons that I didn't manage to get before, like Poseidon. So, yeah. It may surprise some of you, but I'm actually being positive about that aspect of the game. And there's a lot of bad things happening right now as well, but I'll keep that as the positive mention for today. I just want the game to continue to be okay for all different players, whether you're a paying player or you're a free-to-play player, or you're someone that only logs in for the major events, or you're someone that used to love Arena and now you hate it because of what they did. You know, there's lots of different players out there, but as long as the major events stay mostly player-friendly, I think that's really, really important. That they don't go back to, you know, how they were during those Chrono events, and they don't go back to how they were in the very first iteration that we had for Divines, which, you know, gave us the Zeus Dragon, which was pretty much rely on Big Drop or you get nothing. That's kind of how it was back then. But anyway, for now, I guess I'll be waiting on Chrono Aphrodite to get hatched. Speaking of all the divine stuff, we did get a new divine today. But in terms of this image, I would say the most likely is probably the fact that this is an Ancient Wind event, but it may be a Primal Wind event. I'm saying that that's very possible. That's sort of what I'm hoping for, but I would also be happy Probably overall, in terms of usefulness, happier if it was an energy ancient event. But let me know what you think, and let me know where you think Arya's going. But until next time, I do indeed hope that I can see you then.